The Kenya Human Rights Commission condemned police officers, saying they will be held accountable, saying they had witnessed police firing live bullets while protesters marched along City Hallway. And I quote, "To President William Ruto, the world is watching you descend into tyranny. Your regime's action is an assault on democracy. All of those involved in the shooting, actively or passively, must be held to account." They add, police have shot 4 protesters as witnessed by KHRC, killing 1. We strongly condemn the police killing. Such actions are unacceptable and constitute a grave violation of human rights. Justice and accountability are imperative. We will vigorously push for police accountability. End of quote. The protests were launched last week largely by young activists known as Gen Zs over Finance Bill 2024, which seeks to widen tax base, some of which are unpopular to the masses. Grace Nganga, KTN News, Nairobi.
The Supreme Court of Kenya, as well as Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja's City Hall office, are among government institutions that were razed by fire that was lit by a section of demonstrators during the anti-taxation demonstrations in Nairobi. Vehicles parked in the city and business premises that had been closed down were also badly destroyed in the demonstrations that had begun peacefully but turned violent as the day grew. KTN's David Modoka has more.
On Tuesday afternoon, a huge yellow fire was seen raising down walls of the Supreme Court of Kenya. The destruction soon stretched inside the country's apex court, but security officers manning the building immediately extinguished the fire that could have easily burnt down the office of the country's Chief Justice, Martha Koome. The entrance to the official office of Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja at City Hall, which is just a stone throw distance away, was, however, not as lucky. Fire lit by demonstrators consumed the doors, windows, and everything else that was in its path, turning anything that was wooden into charcoal in a matter of seconds and paving the way for demonstrators to occupy the Nairobi County Assembly. Nearby vehicles, some even belonging to magistrates, also bore the brand of the demonstrations. While some saw their windows shattered, others were painted on them anti-government writings. This police lorry parked outside Parliament suffered the biggest hit after sections of it were reduced to ashes by fire in the blink of an eye. Most of the roads that were all-day battlegrounds for police officers and demonstrators were impassable for the better part of Tuesday, with big stones used by demonstrators and uprooted road signage blocking vehicles and people from passing through. Most businesses were also hard hit, including stalls that were dragged and left scattered on major streets in the CBD. As the march, whose destination was the National Assembly, intensified, police resorted to temporarily detaining some of the protesters.
We are young people, we are tired of this nation. We have come here to challenge the system today. We have come out large in numbers. These police, we are also fighting for their rights.
I would want to remind President Ruto one thing that he said. Isaiah chapter 10 verse 1. Ruto, as you said, who to the governance, who to the government that bring harsh laws to oppress the poor, for they will be judged harshly by God. Remember your words. But for when you came to us holding a Bible, like the missionaries came to us holding a Bible. Hey, you colonized us, and now you're colonized by IMF and World Bank.
When the situation worsened, police officers resorted to launching tear gas at the protesters and eventually jets of pink water to to keep them at bay. This was, however, not successful at some of the streets and roads where protesters broke free and headed to Parliament, but not without turning everything upside down on the way. This police lorry, whose sections have now been reduced to ashes and which is now a shell of its former self, is a clear indication of the destruction of lives and property that was witnessed in the Nairobi Central Business District all day on Tuesday. David Muthoka, KTN News from outside Parliament buildings, Nairobi.
Now, for the second time since the Gen Z demonstrations began, Eldoret town, the bedrock of President William Ruto, experienced serious chaotic scenes as residents rejected the Contentions Finance Bill 2024. Several cars were torched by irate youth, including the Eldoret Municipality Court. Here's that story with Finnick Olwatch.
As the youth in Nairobi advanced and overran Parliament, their counterparts in Eldoret had the same message: reject the Finance Bill 2024 and Ruto must go. Eldoret, the town that lies in Uasin Gishu County, that is President Ruto's backyard, continued to surprise with its magnitude and intensity of demos. The Gen Z protesters in Eldoret came out in numbers to oppose the passing of the Finance Bill 2024. Today, the agitated youth took the demos to new heights, setting the Eldoret Municipal Court on fire as they intensified their push for President Ruto to resign. The demos did not spare establishments that are considered to be owned by government officials or those who backed the contentious bill. Club Timber XO, that is rumored to belong to a key Ruto ally, bore the brunt of the angry protesters as the establishment was vandalized. Finnick Olwatch, KTN News.
And in the coastal city of Mombasa, thousands of residents turned up for the Anti-Finance Bill 2024. It all has turned out to be one of the largest. The agitated youth tried, I should say, several attempts to storm Mombasa State House, but they were repulsed by hawk-eyed JSU. Tobias Chanji has more on this.
It is a crowd that has never been witnessed in the recent past in the port city of Mombasa. The protesters had split themselves in various groups with the aim of accessing the State House from various directions. One of the group tried to enter through Mamangina waterfront, while the second one was aiming the Uhuru Nakazi government building way. But every time they tried to go through, armed police were ready to repulse them.
Tumeona kwamba kwa muda mrefu tumechukua kipaumbele kuweza kufanya maandamano na kuandaa maandamano, lakini safari hii vitu vimebadilika. Wamezoea kututisha na kutuweka katika hali tate.
Kusema la kweli, tumefurahi kuona vijana walivyojitokeza na walivyojipanga kutetea haki zao. Mara nyingi tumezoea kuona vijana wamekaa majumbani, hatuwahusishi, but this time around vijana wameamua kujitolea wenyewe.
Tumekuwa na waandamanaji kuanzia asubuhi na tumekuwa tukiwafuata, na vijana wako very peaceful. Hakuna kijana ambaye ameshika weapon, hakuna kijana ambaye amerusha hata jiwe ama lolote. Vijana wamebeba maji na simu zao peke yake.
Kwa pia labda usalama wao, manake kuna abduction mingi sasa. Usalama wetu tunahofia kuwa maybe watakuja kuchukua watu. Na hao polisi wakiwa namna hii wana intimidate vijana, ndio hii hatari. Kwa hivyo sisi tunajua Mombasa kuna amani, vijana wamejitokeza wengi na tunataka amani, polisi wasitumie nguvu na wala wasiumize mtu yoyote, ni haki yao kuandamana.
The youth started off the protest from various places. Some started from the famous Mapembeni, while some on busy Digo and Kenyatta avenues, while others from the suburbs.
Zakao yaweze kusikiza vijana. Vijana wanaumia, sasa maisha imekuwa ngumu. Na ile historia ya wazazi wetu waliogopa Moi, hatutakubali kama vijana. We are the change and the power belongs to us. We are the people and we are the change.
The huge protest was not only in Mombasa, but in other areas such as Diani, Kilifi, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Tana River, among others.
Now, at this point, the MPs need to do the right thing.
You cannot tax a country to poverty. That is all I have to say.
Behind me, some of the youths who tried to storm State House Mombasa, but the police were vigilant to make sure that they've thwarted those plans. Tobias Chanji, KTN News, Mombasa County.
Meanwhile, members of Parliament passed the controversial Finance Bill 2024 with key amendments. The bill will now be forwarded to President William Ruto for assent. Some of the amendments approved include the dropping of controversial taxes, among them ordinary bread, financial taxes, and motor vehicle taxes. The adoption was decided by 195 votes in favor and 106 against, while 3 MPs abstained. KTN's senior political affairs reporter, Dana Karuki, was in Parliament and now files this report.
Afternoon session.
Tuesday morning, members of Parliament entered the August House ready to transact the business that has brought the country at a standstill, the Finance Bill 2024.
We are very many in this House.
And immediately they embarked on amending the Finance Bill and passing clause by clause. Finance Chair and Molo MP Kimani Kuria introducing amendments seeking to remove the contentious parts that have been subjected to criticism. Some of the notable amendments that were proposed and adopted were the removal of the motor vehicle tax and the restriction to the eco levy to finished imported goods. Other adopted amendments included making the Social Health Insurance Fund (SHIF) tax deducible. However, members in the opposition opted to withdraw their amendments, saying they wanted the entire bill rejected and not amended. And when it was time to vote, some members, especially those in government, opted not to speak on their mic, prompting the opposition to call on the Speaker to rule that every member speaks on the mic while voting.
The House is full. All members have availed themselves. We can't hear ourselves properly. Mr. Speaker, we still indulge you that you allow us to use the microphone so that people can be here loud and clear. That is voting yes and no. Mr. Speaker, we are insisting. We are not asking. We are not begging. It's not a favor, Bana. It's not a favor. It's not a favor. Don't joke with us here, Bana.
Having agreed with the majority and minority leaders, and this is how we voted last week, I will direct the clerk when you are called. They press your mic, you vote, and you sit down. Order.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Finance Bill of 2024 be now read at that time.
Ayes 195, nays 106, abstentions nil, spoiled votes 3. The ayes have it.
The bill sailed through and is expected to be assent anytime during the week by President. Even with the protesters going on with their protest and managing to access Parliament, members of Parliament went ahead to pass the contentious Finance Bill 2024. Focus now shifts to President William Ruto if he's going to assent to the bill and it becomes law. Daniel Kariuki, KTN News at the Parliament buildings, Nairobi.
And before the president, of course, assents to the bill, he roundly condemned yesterday's protest, terming them akin to prisoners, or that is treasonous, I should say. Let's just listen in. Well, give you that story. It seems the monkeys are hanging on that particular line. When we have the monkeys out of the way, then we can give you that particular statement by the president yesterday as soon as it is ready. But we just want to get reactions from our panelists, and I want to just rope in also as well Professor Macharia Munene, who's joining us this morning. And also, just earlier indicated that it's happy to see all of you, you in mint condition, and so is you as well, regarding yesterday. Yeah, where were you? What were your observations?
Well, the observations were interesting. Sitting with some elders somewhere, analyzing the matter. And we are going through a very exciting time. And some of the things that happened yesterday were actually not expected. You know, some of them. I think the day before, the last week, the demonstrations were clearly the great-grandchildren of Mau survivors. Those are the ones, or the Kibaki children. These are the ones who went to school when Kibaki said, watoto wasome. So these are the watoto who soma there. And they studied, they became inquisitive, they think, they just don't take things for granted. They became digital, and who said, what to end digital? So you have combination with kusoma and digital, and it's maturing at this time. The children of Kibaki's children and the great-grandchildren of Mau. And initially you could see it was very clear, but I think yesterday there was a different element that came in. The people, I think there are a few people who know how to throw stones. Last week they were not there, but they were a minority. And then you could see the procession of people, Thika Road, from Pangani all the way to Roasters. Just people walking, going to Maandamano. And they were very peaceful, they were just walking. And then you go some places. So it was a different picture altogether. The mood is one of solidarity, defiance, and loss of fear. It was very clear. It was unfortunate what happened in Parliament. People died, and of course some few vehicles were torched or burned or whatever it is. But generally the whole thing is captivating. It's a good study on revolutionary evolution, if there's such a thing. Because what you have is an attitude thing, not so much the violent part of it, but the attitude thing. And when there is that attitudinal revolution, it becomes very difficult to contain it, irrespective of what. Now, the decision yesterday by the president to call in the military, I think went a little bit far. I think so. He's right, there is that provision, there's no question about it. That when the police are incapable of doing their job to keep the peace, you may bring in the military. Which raises the question, is the police that incompetent? And yet you have sent 400 of them to Haiti, a worse situation there. And we have people here, a bigger force, which is not capable of handling small things. Because these are small things. Big, yes, but in terms of the security operations, these are... Because all it means is that the people in authority goofed, not last week or the week before. For a long time they've been goofing because they have not listened to what people are saying. And you have the boiling up of that frustration, anger, despair. So it boils up, and then it's culminating in the youth, what we call the great-grandchildren of the Mau Mau rising up and saying, we have had enough of this. And they've been saying it very clearly, we are not scared. In fact, they are condemning their parents for not standing up before. So it's an exciting time to watch. Can it be handled? Yes. But it will require a little more thinking, better thinking than what you have seen so far. A little more astuteness and less chest thumping. I think the members of parliament made a mistake or did something wrong, especially if it is true what we hear, that they were given me 2 million shillings each in order to vote the way they did. If it is true, then they are the traitors.
Well, it came from one of your own.
Yes, I mean, so 2 million shillings and you do that, and you can see that. I mean, if someone was voting that way because of conscience, okay, that his conscience or her conscience says this is the way to do it, I have no problem with that one. But when the reason for doing it is even, whether it's 100,000 as somebody alleged one time, or it's 2 million as somebody else alleged another time, that's the reason they did something which clearly angers the nation, because this is the nation which is angry.
Indeed.
Then there is something wrong with those people, and they have no business being in parliament in the long run. And so when the people say we should recall, I think they have a point that they need to be a little more careful. Then there is also the one more point that
well, I think we'll circle with that particular point. It's time for us to take a station break. When we circle back, of course, we shall pick up on that as well. Don't lose it as well. A day of infamy that was there yesterday. Death, chaos, rage, and of course, mayhem that we saw in the city that has never happened in the storied history of our country. And this is an inflection point for us to ponder, think. It's a pause giver for us to level gaze deeply into our issues, to get granular with it as well. The voice of the youth bulge that we have in this country, the youth bulge, and that, of course, youthful